We appreciate your welcome. This city's been a great western city. The defense of the West, cattle, oil, and all the rest. Just believes in the strength of this city, strength of this state, and strength of this country.
Did you come to see Jackie or the president?
I came to see the president, and I said to the president, God bless you, and I met him.
Years ago, I said that, introduced myself in Paris by saying that I was the man who had accompanied Mrs. Kennedy to Paris. I'm getting that same sensation as I travel around Texas. Nobody wonders what Lyndon and I wear. I'm glad to be here in Jim Wright City. About 35 years ago, a congressman from California, just been elected, received a letter from an irate constituent that said, during your campaign, you promised to have the Sierra Madre Mountains reforested. You've been in office for 1 month and you haven't done so. Well, no one in Fort Worth has been that unreasonable, but in some ways he has had the Sierra Madre Mountains reforested. And here in Fort Worth, he's contributed to its growth. He speaks for Fort Worth. He speaks for the country. And I don't know any city that's better represented in the Congress of the United States than Fort Worth. And if there are any Democrats here this morning, I'm sure you won't hold that against them.
It doesn't let you leave Fort Worth without providing you with some protection against the rain.
Put it on in the White House on Monday. If you'll come up there, you'll have a chance to see it there.
we would not think so. There are probably groups here that are opposed to his coming and take this method of expressing themselves, but I don't think that the posters within themselves indicate any attempt to harm the president.
Get to the car.
Sure, there's a desire in each of our hearts to bow our heads in the presence of Almighty God, when each in our own way would come to Him. Let us pray.
I was having lunch in the main cafeteria in the hospital when an emergency page arrived for Dr. Tom Shires, Chief of Surgery. Knowing that he was presenting a paper out of town, we picked up the page, Dr. Ronald Jones, surgery resident, myself. They informed us that the president had been shot and was being brought to the emergency room. We went there immediately, and he had just been brought in. It was obvious initially that he had a severe lethal wound. Arriving at the emergency room, Dr. Carrico had placed a tube in the president's trachea to assist his breathing, but there was a neck wound anteriorly and a large wound to his head in the right posterior area. I could not detect a heartbeat or pulse, but he was obviously moribund and having considerable difficulty with his breathing. At this point, I elected to do a tracheostomy, to assist his breathing, requested assistance from Dr. Kemp Clark, Chief of Neurosurgery, Dr. Charles Baxter and Robert McClellan, attending surgeons, who came to my assistance immediately. Blood transfusions were began. With the assistance of Drs. Baxter and McClellan, I completed the tracheostomy, and respiration was assisted. At the time of the tracheostomy, I noted evidence of air and blood in the upper mediastinum. Felt that an injury had been sustained in this area by the passage of the bullet through the neck, and asked that a chest tube be put in place, which was done. Dr. Pepper Jenkins, Chief of Anesthesia, by this time was assisting his respiration. Dr. Selden and Bashir from the Department of Medicine were in attendance also. We noted that, again, there was no detectable heartbeat or pulse. I instituted cardiac massage, externally applied. Dr. Kemp Clark and I continued this massage for a time that is unknown to me. I was quite busy at this particular instant. I don't know the exact time sequence. An electrocardiograph was attached to Mr. Kennedy to monitor his heartbeat, but no detectable activity was present, and it was realized that the President had expired.
Upon arriving at the hospital, a policeman took me to the emergency room immediately. And there the President was lying on the portable table. He was completely covered with a sheet. His wife was standing beside him. And I immediately proceeded to administer the last rites to the President. I removed the sheet so that I could anoint his head, giving him the sacrament of extreme unction. Previous to this, I had given him conditional absolution. This was followed with the apostolic blessing. The sacraments were given conditionally because we did not know whether he was living or dead.
The doctors did not inform you then when you walked in as to his condition?
No, they did not. There were doctors there and Secret Service men, I presume, and policemen. But no one said anything to me whether he was living or dead.
Did you speak to Mrs. Kennedy at any time?
I did. After that, I expressed my sympathy and the sympathy of my parishioners to her. Told her we was terribly shocked at hearing this sad news. And she thanked me very graciously for coming down and taking care of the President, of his spiritual needs, and asked me to pray for him. I assured her that I would.
Did she show any outward signs of emotion, or was she composed?
She was very much composed, but she was seemingly paralyzed or in a shock. She spoke at times softly, rather softly, but without any emotion. She was not crying. I could not understand how she could hold up under these circumstances.
There were about 25 people in the plane. There were some congressmen, Mrs. Johnson, Mrs. Kennedy, some of the security men, some newspaper men, and the vice president stood up in front of me. His wife stood on his left, and Mrs. Kennedy had sent word in that she wanted to be present. I gave Mr. Johnson the oath of office. He swore to perform the duties of the President of the United States to the best of his ability, to uphold, defend, and preserve the Constitution of the United States, and then ended with, "So help me God."
Fortunately, I was probably 15 to 20 feet away from the president when it happened to him.
Tell us exactly what you saw, sir.
He was coming down the street, and my 5-year-old boy and myself were by ourselves on the grass there on Palmer Street, and I asked Joe to wave to him, and Joe waved, and I waved, and a minute.
That's all right, sir. You go ahead and tell it.
As he was waving back, the shot rang out, and he slumped down in the seat, and his wife reached up toward him, and as he was slumping down, and the second shot went off, and it just knocked him down from the seat. Two shots.
Did you see the man who did this?
No, sir, I did not see the man who did it. All I did was look in the man's face when he was shot there, and saw that expression on his face, and grab himself and slide. And the second one, whenever it went, why, I'm positive it had hit him. I hope it didn't, but I'm positive it had hit him, and he went all the way down in the car. Then they speeded up, and I didn't know what was going on, so I just grabbed the boy and fell on him in the hopes that there wasn't a maniac around me. I'm sorry. I can't help you more, but I won't forget.
Yes.
Officer McDonald approached him while we were in the theater.
Were you wounded in the contact?
My foot, ligaments were pulled in my foot in the scuffle of the subject.
How'd you approach him?
Officer McDonald approached him, and as he approached him, the man hit McDonald in the face with his left hand, reached for the pistol with his right hand, and as he reached for his pistol, I grabbed him along with 2 or 3 other officers. He fought with us like a wild man, and we finally subdued him and took him on out, put him in the police car and brought him into the Homicide Bureau.
Who did he aim the gun at?
The gun wasn't necessarily aimed. He started to pull it up to aim it, and Officer McDonald had a hold of the gun. I had a hold of his right arm. We got a thumb or something in between the hammer and the firing pin to prevent it from actually firing. It just snapped slightly and kept it from going off.
It didn't misfire. In other words, you prevented it from firing.
Yes, a hand was possibly prevented from firing.
But there was a bullet in the chamber.
Definitely so, and it had been hit with a firing pin, but not enough to go off.
Did he say what was reported about he got in the president?
No, sir, I didn't hear that.
What did he say to you after he was arrested?
He just said, this is it. It's all over with now.
Being let out by Captain Fritz. There is the prisoner. There is Lee Oswald. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's the man with a gun. It's absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. The detectives have their guns drawn. Oswald has been shot. There is no question about it. Oswald has been shot. Pandemonium has broken loose here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters.
Tell us something, Jack. Hey, Jack, want to say something? How you doing, Jack? Tell us what you want to say. Jack? Ruby, look at us. Just a second. There's nothing to say. What is the jacket on? Well done. Somebody else. Look right into the... another rock there. Did what? Not. Did you get killed? Yeah.
He died at 1:07 our time, 13:07.
Port! On! Help right! Hey! Ready! Aim! Fire! Aim! Fire! Aim!
And then we had just turned the corner. We heard a shot. I turned to my left. I was sitting in the jump seat. I turned to my left to look in the back seat. The president had slumped. He had said nothing. Almost simultaneously, as I turned, I was hit. And I knew I'd been hit badly. And I said, I knew the president had been hit, and I said, my God, they're going to kill us all. And then there was a third shot, and the president was hit again. And we thought then very seriously. I had still regained consciousness, but the president had slumped in Miss Kennedy's lap, and when he was hit the second time, she said, or the first time, it all happened in such a brief span, she said, oh my God, they've killed my husband. She said, Jack. And
it would be quite fitting to erect a visible monument, but today I want to speak to the people of Dallas about a greater memorial which we can construct not only to President Kennedy's memory, but to exemplify the fundamental principles of the nation which we love and which he was serving when he died. For it will not be sufficient for us to say that we are sorry. It is also required of us that we combine all of the talents of our city to renew the vital spirit of our people. We have often proudly said that we have a great city composed of good people with a depth of civic enterprise and accomplishment second to none. It has occurred to me these past few days that perhaps we have spoken too proudly of ourselves. If our deeds are deeds of true accomplishment, we will have so served our nation and our world that we will not need to call attention to our works. Today I wish to call upon the people of Dallas to combine and unify our resources, which indeed are many, not simply for the love that we have for Dallas, but in order that our city may become a useful example of service to all of the world, an example of faithful endeavor for the good of all. I call upon the churches and the synagogues for such devotion to our faith that they will speak to us with utmost candor, both of the ideals of truth and of the shortcomings of our community, so that we may be guided into the paths of right. I call upon our schools, and especially our colleges and universities, to continue their search for understanding with complete freedom, so that they may teach without fear or bias. I call upon men and women in business to renew their energies in fair and fruitful commerce, so as to inspire us all to the highest standards of integrity in industry and ethical enterprise. I call upon labor to demonstrate to our community the benefits and usefulness of work well done. I call upon newspapers and radio and television broadcasters not only to report the news with careful evaluation of its worth, but to appraise it earnestly and interpret it wisely for the common good. I call upon the business and professional men and women of the city of Dallas to renew their dedication to the ideals of American life. I call upon the parents of every child in Dallas, now and in the years to come, to inculcate in their children a dedication to law and order and a respect for duly constituted authority. I call upon all the people to bring to bear every means of strengthening our normal fiber and to make ours a community of tolerance and understanding. It is typically American for us to disagree on nearly every issue. We must exercise freely our right to voice our individual opinions, to engage in partisan causes, to vote according to diverse views. But I call upon all of our citizens to enter into controversy without hatred, disagreement without disparagement. And I ask that we allow ourselves to be intolerant only with intolerance whenever we find it in our midst. I am convinced that the grievous events we have just endured can teach us the most profound lesson of all, that our best laid plans are not good enough without the benefit of a wisdom greater than our own. As we undertake to renew our spirit and develop greater usefulness, let us not be hesitant or ashamed to subject ourselves at every opportunity to the insights which can be gained only upon our knees and in the conscious presence of Almighty God. Thank you, and God bless you.
Fortunately, I was probably 15 to 20 feet away from the president when it happened to him.
Tell us exactly what you saw, sir.
He was coming down the street, and my 5-year-old boy and myself were by ourselves on the grass there on Palmer Street, and I asked Joe to wave to him, and Joe waved, and I waved, and the man...
That's all right, sir.
You go ahead and tell As he was waving back, the shot rang out, and he slumped down in the seat, and his wife reached up toward him, and he was slumping down, and the second shot went off, and it just knocked him down from the seat. Two shots.
Did you see the man who did this?
No, sir, I did not see the man who did it. All I All I did was look in the man's face when he was shot there and saw that expression on his face and grabbed himself and slide. And the second one, whenever it went, why, I'm positive it had hit him. I hope it didn't, but I'm positive it had hit him, and he went all the way down in the car. Then they speeded up, and I didn't know what was going on, so I just grabbed the boy and fell on him in hopes that there wasn't a maniac around me. I'm sorry. I can't help you more, but I won't forget.
Not an awful lot has changed, I guess, from almost absolute not being known around town, from obscurity. Why, there are many, many people who have known me because of the film. Whenever I was a witness from a few feet away at the assassination, a number of those interviews have been put onto records, and people come to me and ask me about it.
And we do pray, O God our Father, that his death in some way will so inspire men and women around the world that they might rededicate themselves to the cause of liberty, justice, and freedom for all.
Each person will learn different lessons from the assassination. Number one, I think if we needed to learn the lesson, we can be reminded at least that we have a great nation, we have a great system of government that can survive a national tragedy of this character without more than just a faltering step, that our strength as a people and as a nation and as a society is strong enough to where we can continue our own processes of government in an unfaltering manner, and at the same time very quickly reestablish in the minds of all the nations of the world that we continue to supply the leadership of the free world. More than ever before, I have tried to always keep uppermost in my mind the things that were of lasting value, and contributing what time and what talents I had toward furthering those things and those causes, to be grateful for the time that I have, however much that is, to be more aware of the things that you really hold dear, and to be constantly grateful for the things that in your heart you know are really true and significant value and strength to you.
Get to the car.
Shut us up, Jack.
The crowds filled the sidewalks, waiting while a jury on the second floor of the criminal courts building in Dallas decided the fate of Jack Ruby. It was called by some the trial of the century. Reporters and spectators from throughout the world had converged on Dallas to hear the case of a man who shot Lee Harvey Oswald. The trial made overnight celebrities of its participants. Urbane, quick-witted Melvin Belli, pipe-smoking Judge Joe Brown, and the big man with the East Texas drawl, Joe Tonnehill. The long, drawn-out trial was held in the eye of an almost unbelievable storm of activity involving reporters, pickets, psychiatrists, lawyers, and the drawn, hollow-eyed Ruby. It took the jury just 2.5 hours.
The jury finds the defendant guilty of murder with malice as charged in the indictment and assess his punishment at death. Signed, Max E. Causey Foreman. So say you all, ladies and gentlemen. Is that your unanimous verdict? Will all of you whose verdict that is, please hold up your right hands. All right, Sheriff, he's your prisoner.
May I thank this jury for a victory for bigotry.
Keep your seats, please. There'll be no moving out. Don't let anybody out of the courtroom.
Every one of these words that we will appeal this to a court where there is justice on the law. Don't you worry, Jack. We'll appeal this and take it out of doubt.
Ruby, the trial was a beginning, not an end. The man himself became an almost forgotten figure, a captive of the state and a prisoner of what his lawyers called his own terror-filled mind. Lawyers battled among themselves as much as they fought to save his life. There was bitterness and resignation.
I just wonder when these people go to church tomorrow and take the communion cup, whether it shouldn't curdle on their lips.
Well, I don't know. I asked for it and was satisfied with it. I did the best I knew how, and I called them like I saw them. And that's all any judge could do.
Clarence Gregory was one of 7 desperate men who broke out of the Dallas County Jail in March. He exited the front door behind a badly frightened courthouse worker, but Gregory's freedom, like that of the rest, was not to last. Deputy Charles Player, himself unarmed, captured Gregory before he had gotten a block away. The break came at the height of the Jack Ruby trial. The men, all held for robbery, overpowered 2 guards, went down an elevator, and broke away through the crowds jamming the courthouse corridors. 5 were recaptured before they could get out of town. 2 others were caught 4 months later in California. Gregory's hostage was Mrs. W.L. Thornton, widow of the late district judge. The prisoner had forced his way out of Sheriff Decker's jail with a small, black, realistic-looking pistol carved from a bar of soap. On a quiet summer Sunday, the Chief Justice of the United States stood peering out the 6th floor window of the School Book Depository building. Just 7 months before, an assassin had waited at the same window to kill President Kennedy. Chief Justice Warren was one of several Warren Commission members to visit the assassination site. He spent 2 hours in the building to see with his own eyes the places he had heard about from witnesses. Then the Chief Justice did something unexpected and unprecedented in American history. He went to the Dallas County Jail to visit Jack Ruby, a man whose case may someday reach the Supreme Court. For 3 hours, Justice Warren questioned Ruby. He apparently came away satisfied that Ruby had not known or seen Oswald before the assassination. The Warren report issued this fall contained a few surprises. The commission said it was convinced beyond doubt that Lee Harvey Oswald killed the president, that Oswald was working alone without the help or planning of any other person. The commission was critical of the FBI for failing to warn other police agencies of Oswald's whereabouts, and it was critical of Dallas police for having permitted Ruby access to the basement where he shot Oswald. The Warren report became a bestseller circulated throughout the free world, and it did much to dispel rumors, particularly those in Europe, that the assassination had been a part of an international plot The Chief Justice came to Dallas and left without saying one word to newsmen. The person who spent the most time testifying for the commission was Marina Oswald. Her 25 hours before the commission was supplemented in July by an appearance before a commission representative in Dallas. Mrs. Oswald told the story of a marriage often strained to the breaking point. She said Oswald had a sick imagination, although most of the time he was perfectly normal. She said he often compared himself to the great statesmen of history and once told her that, in his words, "In 20 years I'll be prime minister." She said he was irritated by trifles, sometimes wept, and told her that President Kennedy's father had made his money in a bad way. She told of seeing her husband in jail the night after the assassination. "He tried to console me," she testified. "He told me that I should not worry and that everything would turn out well. He tried to be brave, but I could see in his eyes that he was guilty. I could tell that he was afraid. It is hard to describe. He said goodbye to me with his eyes." A night of horror ended for Mrs. Carolyn Adams on September 11th, when her semi-conscious body was found in a newly mown hayfield on Fort Worth's east side. The 20-year-old divorcee, mother of 2 small sons, had been beaten, raped, stabbed repeatedly, and left for dead by her attacker. Her car, clothing, and children were missing. She was rushed to a local hospital in critical...
But we appreciate your welcome. This city's been a great western city. The defense of the West, cattle, oil, and all the rest. It has believed in the strength of this city, the strength of this state, and the strength of this country.
Each person will learn different lessons from the assassination. Number one, I think if we needed to learn the lesson, we can be reminded at least that we have a great nation, we have a great system of government that can survive a national tragedy of this character more than just a faltering step, that our strength as a people and as a nation and as a society is strong enough to where we can continue our own processes of government in an unfaltering manner, and at the same time very quickly reestablish in the minds of all the nations of the world that we continue to supply the leadership of the free world. More than ever before, I have tried to always keep uppermost in my mind the things that were of lasting value, and contributing what time and what talents I had toward furthering those things and those causes, to be grateful for the time that I have, however much that is, to be more aware of the things that you really hold dear, and to be constantly grateful for the things that in your heart you know are really true and significant value and strength to you.
Governor Connally, what are your recollections of those terrible moments when you and President Kennedy were shot?
Martin, just before it occurred, of course, we'd had a great morning in Fort Worth, a magnificent breakfast. He spoke in a slight drizzle. We made a trip to Dallas, huge throngs along the way. We got into downtown Dallas. There were tremendous crowds, real warmth, real understanding, real appreciation. And Nellie and I saw it so vividly because we were riding in the car with them. We did not attempt to acknowledge the obvious ovation that they were getting because we knew it was for the Kennedys. The reception had been magnificent. The president had remarked on it. So had Miss Kennedy. As a matter of fact, I guess not 30 seconds before the tragic incident occurred, Nellie had turned to the president and said, "Mr. President, they can't make you believe now that there are not some in Dallas who love you and appreciate you, can they?" And he said, "No, they sure can't." And then after the third shot, the next thing that occurred, I was conscious. The Secret Service man, of course, the chauffeur had pulled out of the line. They said, "Get out of here." On the radios, they said, "Get us to a hospital immediately." And so we pulled out, of course, and immediately, as fast as we could go, and got to the hospital. And in the space of a few seconds, it's unbelievable what can happen. Martin, we went from great joy, anticipation, a wonderful crowd, wonderful throngs, to great tragedy.
What other reflections have you had, Governor?
Only that maybe, Martin, that the President of the United States, as a result of this great tragedy, has been asked to do something in death that he couldn't do in life. And that is to so shock and so stun a nation and the people and the world of what's happening to us, of the cancerous growth that's being permitted to expand and enlarge itself upon the community and the society in which we live, that breeds a hatred, a bigotry, an intolerance, an indifference, a lawlessness that is, I think, really an outward manifestation of what occurred here in Dallas. It could have occurred in any other city in America. It is nothing more than a manifestation of an extremism on both sides that basically is the genesis of our self-destruction if we're ever going to be destroyed. I am not the least fearful of any foreign enemy, so long as we have within ourselves not hate, but human understanding, not passion and prejudice, but reason and tolerance, and not ignorance, but knowledge, and the willingness to use that knowledge. This is the only answer I can give Martin why he's gone and I'm not.
Thank you, Governor.